Hey guys, this is Ina from Cashew. We have a lot of work today because we'll be animating this. In this After Effects tutorial, I'll show you everything from start to finish. This tutorial is for beginner animators, so you can try it even if you're just starting out. This is a very simple animation, so you can just copy and just do what I'm doing and create your own beautiful scene. If you feel stuck, you can download our free animation template, but we strongly recommend you try these 2D animation techniques yourself first. We have a very exciting news that I'll share with you at the end of this video, so stick around. I am very excited, so let me jump to my computer and show you how I animated this in After Effects. I have my Illustrator now opened and I need to separate the layers before I import them into After Effects so I can then create the animation. So let's get started. First, I'm just going to select this layer and I'm going to click the hamburger menu right here and click Release to Layers Sequence. I'm going to select all the layers and I'm going to just drag and drop them here. So that way every object has its layer. However, I'll need to organize this better so it's easier for me to animate it later. So let's get started with the clouds. First, I'm just going to select the clouds and just do the same thing, clicking the hamburger menu and then release to layers. Actually, it's like grouped, so let me just do it that way. Select all the layers and drag and drop them above the layer. So as you can see now, the clouds are on one layer. I just need to do the same thing by clicking on the arrow, clicking on the group, hamburger menu, and then release to layers. I'm gonna select all these layers, drag and drop them here. So now this layer is empty, so I'm just gonna delete it, and this layer should be empty as well. Yep, so I'm just gonna delete it. So we have clouds, right, the sun, and the plane. So let me just rename them. So I would like to have all the different elements that form this tree on a separate layer because I'll be creating a very cool animation later on in After Effects, so it will be harder for me to animate if everything is in one layer. So I'm just gonna repeat the same process. Alright, so let's look at the buildings now. This building looks pretty good, but I'll still need to animate the roof and then this shape, the door as well. So it'll be better if I have everything being on separate layer. So as you can see here, for example, the roof is in one layer, like this part and this part over here. Let me just release everything so that later on I can animate the layers separately. And you can just follow the same process for the rest of the layers, and I'm gonna speed it up. Alright, great. So as you can see, my Illustrator file is ready and I'm about to import it into After Effects. I have a separate layer for every shape that I'll be animating. So the golden rule here is this: if you're going to be moving a shape, it needs to be on a separate layer. If you're going to be moving the whole thing, like for example this hill, if you want to animate like all the elements of the hill at once, then it can be one layer. But in our case, I'll be animating this part separately, then this part, and so that's why I need it to be on a separate layer, and same goes for all other elements that I have already separated and organized. So now that we have our file organized, let's import it into After Effects and start animating. On the project panel, I'm gonna right click and click import file. Here's my file, so I'll click on it and then import as, and then composition retain layer sizes. This is very important. And then I click import. Okay, perfect. My scene is here. Beautiful. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure there are no empty layers. So the way I do that is by clicking on the background, then locking this layer so I can't select it, and then click on the bottom left corner. See, there is like one layer over here that is empty, so I'm just going to delete it to not mess around with my composition. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock the background, click Control A to select all the layers, and click on this sun icon over here. What this does, it's like continuous rasterization, so that way if all the files are vectors, like in our case, no matter how much you scale it up, the quality will be great. Look what happens if this option is not clicked. Yeah, doesn't look good. Perfect. So now the first thing that I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to lock the background and I'm going to create some pre-compositions. That way I can have separate composition for all the elements that I'll be animating, so it'll be easier and faster to animate everything, and it will be way more organized than now. All right, so the first three layers that I see here are the tree. So I'm gonna select them, click on this little dot icon over here so I can isolate them, and great, this is my tree. So I have all the layers selected. I'm gonna right click and click pre-compose. I'm gonna name this tree. Great. And so now don't forget to click on this icon again. And now we have house 0, selecting all the layers. This is house 0. Perfect. Right click, pre-compose, house 0. Click this sun icon again. And so now house 1. This is our house 1. Great. Pre-compose, house 1. So I'm gonna leave the base as this is just one layer. The grass as well. And now you can just do the same thing for the other layers, and I'm just gonna speed this up. So the next thing that I'm going to do would be to organize this a little bit better, and I'm just going to mark all the objects that are repeated, like for example the grass, the trees, the electricity. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate one tree and then I'm going to duplicate it, so that way I don't have to do the same animation 3 times where we have 3 trees. And so because of that, I'm going to select all the layers that are repeated and then click on this square over here and then just change the color to green. And so then all the compositions that need to be animated will be a different color. So let me select them. These are the compositions that I need to animate, and click on the square here and make them yellow. So I'm just going to select all the green layers here, and I'm just going to click on this icon here and then on this one here. Great. So now what's left is only the things that I need to animate. Again, I'm going to lock the background and I'm going to start animating. This is the exciting part. So let's start with this one over here. I'm just going to select the composition, and now you can see 3 layers here, like the base, this thingy, and then this thingy, and that I think is the light, like the lamp. So I'm going to select these 2 layers, like the lamp and then the base of the lamp, and I'm going to connect them to the base layer. So the way I do that is by selecting them and then clicking this swirl icon here and then dragging and dropping to the base layer. That will be my base layer. That way, if I move this layer, everything that's connected to it will move with it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the base and move the anchor point. So as you can see, the anchor point right now is at the center. I want it to be here at the bottom. Great. So I'm just going to click the layer again and click S and add a keyframe. I'm going to zoom in my timeline and move this keyframe to about the 1 frame mark. Click F9 to easy ease that. And then you need to click on this icon over here. So that way we can turn off the constraint proportions and so we can create some cool animations. Yes, so click on this icon here and then click here and bring that to 0. Okay, so let's play it. Okay, looks good, but let me add another keyframe to make it a bit more realistic and a bit more cartoon-ish. Go to about 10 frames before your second keyframe and bring that to 230. Okay, this looks good. If you want, you can also add another keyframe right here when it goes down a little bit before it goes up. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so now we have this cool bounce effect, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is right now. And now I want to animate the lamp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the base, and actually I'm going to connect this layer to this layer. This is the base, and again, move the anchor point here, and I'll click R on your keyboard to bring up rotation, and then Shift and S to bring up the scale keyframes as well, and then add a keyframe for the scale. Select these 2 keyframes and click F9 to easy ease them. Now move them to 10 frames after the last keyframe of the base. And then here we're going to add another keyframe. So the scale should be 0. And let's make the rotation about 60. That was just the rough animation. And now we need to add another keyframe. Let's move this a bit more to the right. And then copy these, paste them in the middle. And then bring up the rotation to -15. And the scale to 116. So we can add another keyframe in between these two as well. Let's see how that looks. Copy these keyframes, paste them, and then make the rotation about 15 and the scale 107. And let's see. All right, great. So we have this little bounce effect on both of our layers, like the lamp and then the base. And I think it looks pretty good. We are ready with this layer, and now let's start animating the tree. I'm gonna click on the tree. I connect everything to the base. So these two layers, this one and this one, need to be connected to the base. I'm going to, and this is my base, by the way. Let me rename that so it's easier for you. Select the two layers, connect them to the base, and great. So for this one, I'm going to create a similar animation, but a bit different, so you'll see in a second. Select the base again and click Y on your keyboard to change the anchor point, and again, move the anchor point to the bottom. Click the base and then click S to bring up the scale keyframes. Click on the keyframe to add a keyframe and then hold Shift plus R to bring up the rotation as well and add a keyframe here again. I'm going to zoom in my timeline, select all the layers and click F9 to ease them. Now, let me move these to about the 1 second mark approximately. And then again, I'm going to click this icon over here so I can create different animations and like make it look cartoonish and cooler. So click this and then bring it down to 0. But this time, bring this one to about 350. And let's see how that looks. All right, great. So see how it starts like right here. It's like wider and it gets slimmer. This is great. And now let's add the in-between keyframe like the last time so we can make it even cooler. Copy these keyframes here and then change the scale to about 150. And then this one to 230. So let's see how that looks. Whoop. So in this tutorial, we won't be talking about the graph editor because that will take a long time. And this is a very simple animation we're creating right now. So don't worry about that now. Let's animate the rotation a bit. Go at the start of your composition and change the rotation to about 6. And then here, let's make it -3. So I have some nice rotation now and the scale looks pretty good. So now let's offset these keyframes a bit so it looks better. Click on the scale text so I can select all the keyframes and move them a little bit like this. See how now the rotation starts a bit sooner than the scale. And so that makes the whole animation look smoother and cooler. Great, so we now have the base and now let's animate these little layers over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this layer. I'm going to right click on it and click create shape from layer. So now what this does is that now I have a shape. Like I can control it, I can add more like pins, I can change the shape of it. And that's the beauty of it because right now we are going to be creating some very cool effects with that. But let me delete this layer. So that was my layer before I created a shape layer. I don't need it now. And then click on this layer, the arrow here, contents, the group, and then path. And then add a keyframe for the path. And then click E on your keyboard so you can see only the keyframes. Move this to about here and that will be our end position. So now let's add a keyframe over here. Click G on your keyboard and then click on this dot over here. So now we're going to be changing the shape. This keyframe, I want it to be like this. Now I want it to be like this. And then at the start or around here, I want it to be like that. I'm going to adjust it. Feel free to play around with it. I just wanted to show you how to edit shapes. All right, great. Perfect. So that's amazing. Great. So I'm just going to do the same thing with the other layer. Right click on it, create shape from vector file. I'm going to delete the old layer, arrow, group, path, adding a keyframe, U on the keyboard so I can see all the keyframes. Move this over here. That will be the final position. In the middle, I want it to go up, and I want the shape to be like that. Great. And then at the start, I want it to be like this. So now I'm going to add one more keyframe over here in between the second and the third keyframe. So select this shape, zoom in a little, and I would like it to bounce a bit. Same as we did with the other animation, and same with this one. Click G, click on the dot, and then start adjusting the path. And what I want to do is to make this go down and then up, G, down. Great. Let me move these keyframes a little bit. So let's see how this whole animation looks. Perfect. So the last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to offset these keyframes. Right. So now we have this cool bounce effect again. Great. Our tree animation is ready. So now let's animate the first house. You can click this icon over here, by the way, to change your background if it's easier for you. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to select all the keyframes, right click, create, shape from vector layer. Now I'm going to delete all these layers because I don't need them now. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new object. So the way you do that is by clicking layer, new object. I'm going to select the new object and put it right here. That will be the anchor point of our animation. Think of it as a control layer. All the layers that are connected to it are controlled by it. So if I move the new layer and all the layers are connected to the new layer, now I can just move the new and everything will move with it without having to create 4 different keyframes for every layer. Now let's select all the layers and connect them to the new. I'm going to select the new and again press S on the keyboard to bring up the scale, add a keyframe here. I'm going to zoom in my timeline. I'm just going to be animating the scale for the new for now. Click F9 to ease it and then move this keyframe to about the 1 second mark. And then here, again, click this icon and then click 0 here. So pretty similar animation, but right now here, again, we're going to be creating the bounce. At about 20th frame, add another keyframe and make it 150. Let's see how that looks. So now all these layers are shape layers, right? So now we would like to animate the shapes a little bit so we can make it look cooler. The way we do that is we just animate the pad. And the easiest way to do that is by writing down pad over here. And you can add keyframes for the pad for all the layers. And again, you can press U on the keyboard to bring up all the keyframes. Click on the new and click U again. So that will be our end position. And in the middle, what I want to do is I'm going to change the shape of the roof and also the shape of the front layer, like the house. And I'm going to select the roof, press G on the keyboard and select these 2 dots over here and then move them like this. I want it to be a straight line. Select the front layer, move this here by holding Shift so it's a straight line. And this dot over here, I want it to be a straight line again, like this, all the layers. And then the door, where is my door? Again, I'm going to select these dots and bring it up here. Good. Actually, let me select these keyframes and move them to the start. I think it will be smoother. All right, good. Let's go back to our main composition and see how everything looks. Boom. We are going to be offsetting all these elements later on in this tutorial. Now, let me open up this house over here and let's start animating. It will be a pretty simple animation and I'm just going to make it with a mask. I'm going to select the roof and I'm going to click S on my keyboard to bring up the scale. Let me zoom in. F9 to ease this keyframe and move this to about the 10th frame. click this icon here, and then change this keyframe to 0. Okay, this is pretty fast, so let me move the keyframe. Good. Now let me animate the position. Hold Shift and click P to bring up the position. Add a keyframe, and that'll be my final keyframe. So I'm going to move it to the 1 second mark, and I'm going to bring it down the start. I want it to be around here. Whoop, that's good. However, I want to change the position keyframe. So I'll select all the position keyframes and move them after the scale animation is done. You see why in a second. I want the roof to reveal the rest of the building. So the way I do that is by creating a mask. And the way I do that is by clicking on this icon over here. So I'm going to be creating a shape. And let me create a pretty big shape here. Maybe something like that. And the color doesn't matter. Just make sure you have a fill color. Then I'm going to select this. And I'm going to rename this mask. I'm going to cut this layer and make it start here, as well as these two objects around here. That's good. And now let me bring up the mask above these layers, switch modes. And now here, like the mode, click Alpha Inverted Mate. If I move this layer up, as you can see, it won't appear where the mask is. So now let me do the exact same thing with the other layer. I'm going to click on the mask, click Ctrl D to duplicate it. Bring it above the other layer, and again, click Alpha Inverted Mask. So now select the two masks by holding Control and then connect them to the roof. And now let's see how this looks. Whoop! Whoa, pretty cool, right? Great. I think this animation is ready, and we are ready with the second house. Okay, I have my next house open, and now let's animate it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the roof layers because we are going to do something different here. Select the roof layers. Let me click on this icon here. Okay, these are my roof layers. Right click on it and click Pre-Compose and name that roof. The sun icon, don't forget to click the sun icon. Now select everything except the roof. So Control and click on this composition to exclude it. And again, recompose that. I'm going to call this base. And now let's move the anchor points of the two pre-compositions. Click on the base, click Y on your keyboard, hold this little pin and move it here. Now click on the roof, do the same thing, move this right where it connects to the house. What we're going to do here is to create the cool little bounce where the roof goes up a little bit and then goes back again. The first thing that you're going to do is select the roof and connect it to the base. Now click on the base and click S on your keyboard and add a keyframe here. F9 to easy ease it. Now move this to about 1 second and 25 frames. That will be our end position. Now at the start, we're going to click this little thing here and bring that to 0. And this one to 135. Kind of like in the middle, we want this to be 140 and this to be 95. That's good. And then in between these two keyframes, copy and paste this keyframe so you can have a reference, but bring this down to about 83 and then this one to about 120. And now let's see how that looks. Okay, good. We have some pretty good bounce here. Awesome. So now let's animate the roof. Go where your last frame is. Click on the roof and click P. Easy ease this keyframe. And here we'll need to add another keyframe. That will be the same keyframe here. Here we need to make it go up. And in between these two keyframes, actually say 5 keyframes before the first keyframe. Copy and paste the first keyframe. Now let's see how that looks. Boom, that's good. However, it'll be better if the roof falls down faster. So basically, it kind of creates this feeling as if the roof makes the whole building go down and squish. That's good. So the only thing that I'm going to do now is select all the keyframes and bring them to the left, because right now it feels like the first movement is kind of slow. Let's see our main composition. Okay, good, I love it. Now let's animate the other house. Alright, so for this house, we're going to create a pretty simple animation of just bounce, because I don't want to overwhelm the scene with a bunch of different animations. So we're going to create a new object again. New object, move it to here, approximately. Connect all the layers to the new. Click S, that'll be our end position. At the start, click on this icon, make it 0, make this about 130. Right here, make this 120. And then this one, 95. And then here, in between these two keyframes, make that 95. And make that 115. Pretty cool bounce animation, and we're ready with this house. Okay, so for this house, we're going to do pretty much the same thing as this house, because it's pretty much the same, so I don't want to overwhelm the whole composition. I'm going to create a new, move it here, connect all the layers to the new, S to bring up scale, add a keyframe, F9. At the start, I'll change this to 0 and this one to 120. In the middle, it'll be 115 and 95. And here, it'll be 95 here and about 115 here. Okay, that's great. We are ready with this animation as well. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to create a very similar animation like the animation of house 3. However, I am going to put a mask on these arrows over here, like the black arrows. It can look cooler. So first, let's animate the roof. So these little arrows that I mentioned, let's animate the position of them a little bit. So let me select all of them. I'm going to click on the eye icon over here so I can see what's the roof and what's the base. And basically, you can just rename your layers. But I'm too lazy at the moment renaming every house because we have like 10 houses to animate. So let me pre-compose that and call that roof. Don't forget to click on this icon here and then click P on your keyboard to bring up the position, F9 to ease it, and then move this to about a 1 second mark. Move this down a little bit, and don't worry, we'll be creating a mask for the roof as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask. In the mask will be the only thing that will be seen from these layers. Let me connect the mask to the roof and name it mask. Now, again, switch the modes and here click alpha mate. So remember in our animation of the third house, we did inverted mate. Basically, that was our mask. So if we move this layer where the mask is, you won't be able to see it. However, here we want to do the exact opposite thing. Whatever is in the mask, we want to be able to see it. So that's why we clicked alpha mate. And now let's click the mask, duplicate it by clicking Ctrl and D, and then bring the mask above the other layer and again click alpha mate. And since the masks are connected to the roof, here's what we'll see. Boom. All right, great. But as you can see here, the roof starts from kind of nowhere and has this weird shape. So what we're going to do is we are going to create another mask that will be for the roof only. Let's create a shape, all right? That will start at the bottom of the building and then call this mask roof. Bring it above the roof. And again, this time we need to click alpha inverted. So in this tutorial, I want to show you a bunch of different techniques. So we're just using alpha inverted mate here and then alpha mate here. And now let's see how that looks. Okay, good. So it's like raising from the ground and then revealing the rest of the house. This is pretty good. So you know what will be cooler if we have these lines moving. So this is what we're going to do now. Click on the roof. So if I click on this layer, as you can see, that's my black layer. This is the purple layer, the black layer, and then the purple layer again. So what I want to do is to move these layers a little bit. So I'm going to lock this layer for now, and I'm going to select all the 3 layers, click P on the keyboard, easy ease that, and let me see where this animation ends. Okay, to 1 second mark. So let me go there, here. So that'll be my end position. And now for the start position, let me move them around a little bit. This purple layer here can go down. And don't forget, we already have a mask here. So we won't be able to see these weird shapes in this composition. Let me move the black layer here and this layer over here. Actually, let me bring them down further. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, now, if I go to my main composition, let me see how that looks. Whoops. Great. So do you see these arrows here? We created this cool animation. So it's not only just revealing the base, but also animating the roof. Okay, looks pretty good to me. And now let me go back to our main composition. And we are going to start animating these 2 buildings now. So for this one, I'm again going to create a very simple animation so I don't overwhelm my master composition with a bunch of different things. New object, click on the new, move it here, select all the layers connected to the new. And actually, let me show you something pretty cool. If we go back here to house number 7, you know that we already created this cool animation for the house, right? So what we can do here is we just copy and paste the keyframes to house number 6. Click on the scale text here, Control C. And now click on this layer here and click Control V. So now if we click U on the keyboard, we'll see the exact same keyframes that we had for house number 7. Look at house number 7 and look at house number 6. Whoa, that's great. Alright, to speed things up a little bit, I'm not going to be animating this house, but I'm going to duplicate this and change it a little bit. Click on house number 9 and click Control D to duplicate it. Now, click on the little dot over here and click Y to move the anchor point. Move it here. And now, let me move it right here. Click Scale and then start scaling this down. Where is this house? All right, it's house number 4. Okay, so let me bring it on top of it. Good. So let me see just house number 4. Okay, good. So now I just want to take this color because I'm going to be changing the color of house number 9. And I'm going to show you a very easy technique to do so. Take the color. Okay, I have my color now. And then click on house number 9 and search for change to color. This effect is pretty cool. Add it here. And then here in the effects panel, take the current color and then change it to the pink color. Now, change by transforming to color, change, hue, light, and saturation. So now you can see these little pixels over here. Just change the hue to 15 and boom, ready. So now we don't need house number 4. I'm just gonna delete it. So for this house, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the scale bounce animation, but I'm going to change the shapes a little bit, similar to what we did for slide number 1. So I'm going to create a new object again, move the new, select the layers, connect them to the new, and to speed things up, I'm just going to copy these keyframes, paste them here, and then good. All right, we have this very cool bounce effect now. Now, let me zoom in my timeline, and I want the base and the roof to be shape layers so I can manipulate them. Select them both, right click, create shape from vector. We delete these 2, and then again, search, type path, animate the path, boom. And now click on the new, click U on the keyboard to see the scale. So I want the house and the roof to start normal. Then here, when it scales up, these 2 dots to go right here. Actually, this is not a straight line, so make sure it's a straight line. Maybe select all of them. Make them go up. All right, that's cool. So now we need to adjust the base as well. Move this dot to connect it to the roof and see. Okay. And now when it goes down, I want it to go down even further. Let me see how that looks. Whoa, boom. That's good. Okay, great. Actually, we can offset these keyframes a bit to have a follow through. Action, boom, whoa, whoa. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this one. And I'm going to move forward. All right, great. I think we have all the houses animated now. Okay, great. Now let's animate the hill. For the hill, I'm going to do something very simple. I just changed the anchor point of the purple layer. That's the base. I'm going to add a scale keyframe here at the start. That'll be 0. That'll be 250. And then here, I'll make this 230. And then this about 173. Something like this. Whoop. Great. Okay, great. So what we're going to do now is create a mask for this part over here. I'm going to click this layer, duplicate it, bring this up, Alphamate again, and let's see how that looks. So as you can see here, this layer needs to be bigger. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shape again, delete this and make this Alphamate. And then I'm just going to select these dots and bring them, these dots and bring them up here. This one needs to be here and like that. Okay, awesome. Let's see. Okay, great. We can animate this a bit. Click on it, P on your keyboard, and then add a keyframe. That will be our final keyframe. And then here, it can go up. And then at the start, we can just copy the final keyframe. So you'll be like this. Okay, looks pretty good to me. And now, let's see our whole composition. All right, great. Wow. We will just animate the sky, the plane as well, and then the kites. Let me start with the sky. So for the clouds, we'll be just animating the position. So select all the clouds, P on your keyboard, add a keyframe at the start, and then since we're going to make this loop, go into the 3-second mark and add another keyframe, and then in the middle, just make this cloud go here, this one here, and this one here as well. All right. Okay, good. So they will be moving and then going back to where they were. Great. So we won't be animating the sun because I think it looks pretty good the way it is right now. So the plane will basically start here, and we'll make them, we'll scale it down, and then 3-second mark, we'll make it fly away like that. Let's change the arc because we don't want the plane to be falling down. Would that be too fast? Let's see. I think it looks pretty good. However, right here, I want it to rotate. And there's a cool way you can do this, but I'm going to tell you about it in another tutorial. Here in the middle, needs to scale up again. And let's see how this looks. Actually, at the start, let me rotate it a bit more. And let's see how that looks. Since I want the hill to hide the plane, I'm going to cut this layer here. So it'll be boom. But now the clouds are moving too fast. Let me adjust them. Okay, great. So now we just need to animate the kites, and that will be a pretty simple animation. So that would be the lace, and that will be the kite itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the kite to this, and I'm going to move the anchor point here. I'm going to scale it, scale, 0. But now we're going to apply some cool effect to it. And now let's scale this a bit. R, U, and we're going to be scaling this, go down, up, and then here we'll just be copying and pasting this keyframe. Okay, this looks good. So now let's add a warp effect. So go in your effects panel and type wave warp, add it to the kite, change this to 5 and this one to 60. Okay, I think it looks pretty good. Okay, great. So now we just need to make a few final adjustments and offset the layers, and we will be ready. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to unhide the layers, and let's first animate the base. I'm going to click on the scale, and at the start, make the scale like this. Whoop. Let's ease these keyframes, and let's select all the grass layers and the hill as well. So move the anchor point. So if you have the anchor point mover from the animation composer set, that's a pretty good and easy way to just change the anchor point right away. When you have them selected, click S on your keyboard to bring the scale, and then here, and move the keyframes here. And now here, just make them all be 0. So here we go. So we need them to bounce a bit. So make this 215. Okay, so we are almost there. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to duplicate the tree and the electricity thingy that we have here. So see this layer over here. So click on the electricity layer and Control D to duplicate it. Move it down here. And let me scale it up and adjust it. 50% scale. Okay, just want to place it where that layer was. And I'm going to delete this one. So we're going to do the same thing with the trees. So I'm going to select all the tree layers that I see. Tree. I'm going to isolate them. And then where's my main tree? Okay, here we go. This tree is the same as this tree. So click on the tree, Control D to duplicate it. Move the new tree here and here. Okay, looks good. Let me delete this one. And so now I'm going to do the same thing, just duplicate this one and change this one. But now, as you can see, this tree has a fill. So what I'm going to do is search for the fill effect, apply it, and then just take this color. Boom. All right, we're ready. Let me delete this one. All right, great. So I think we're almost ready to go. The only thing that I want you to do now is going to move the base on top of all the layers, because that will be the base. And now the last thing that I will do is I'm going to offset the layers and we will be ready. You can play around with it, but I'm just going to just offset them randomly. Okay, that's great, guys. Look at what beautiful animation we just created.
Congratulations, guys! Your animation is ready. But don't close this video yet, because I have something exciting to share with you. I'm making myself available to review your work. So if you need feedback, or if you want me to go over the animation you created and give you some tips, here's what you need to do. Download the free template in the description, create your own animation following this tutorial, follow me on Instagram and send me your video. I will then record a video and I will walk you through my ideas for your animation. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to our channel if you like this video. Thank you very much for your time and see you next week.